What's up everyone, Off the Cuff Reviews here. My name's Alex and today I have a special new video giving you movie recommendations. So let's get into it. Today's movie recommendations, we are going to be talking about a bunch of Japanese horror films that don't get talked about enough. I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a dive into Japanese horror, the kind of the way that I did with Giallo, and then I just wanted to give you guys some recommendations. Now, with Japanese horror, you will find a lot of themes that kind of are integrated into their movies that aren't always integrated into like Western horror films, or maybe like, I feel like for a while Western horror films kind of strayed away from leaning into some of the themes that Japanese horror, or J-horror as some people call it, as they kind of leaned into, meaning there's a lot of grief horror over in Japan, and the reason why is because they just like look at life differently, at least a little bit, and they like to portray that in their movies. They definitely have like a more like emotional impact. A lot of them, not every one of them, and even the ones on this list like maybe aren't like super like emotional, but that is a theme throughout a lot of Japanese horror films. Just to name a few, like The Ring or The Grudge, for example, those have those kinds of themes, and there's other movies as well. But today I just wanted to talk about some Japanese horror that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and we are gonna dive into that because there are a lot of people who just kind of stick to the movies like I just mentioned, like The Ring or fucking like Pulse or The Grudge or something like that. And those movies I actually have in my honorable mentions, along with One Missed Call, which I also believe is like an underrated gem. But those movies I feel like do get talked about a lot, whether they're underrated or not. Like I feel like they do get talked about a lot. Those are like the more popular ones. They were also remade for Western media. So here's a list of movies that may or may not have been remade or anything like that, but these are movies that I feel like you should put on your watch list in case you haven't heard of them yet, or in case you maybe have heard of them or haven't watched them. This is just going to be a list of movies that I do like. Some of them I haven't actually even fully seen yet, but I wanted to recommend them on here because I feel like some people haven't actually watched them. They're on my watch list, or I've already seen all these. So let's dive in. And by the way, this is in no particular order, but I just wanted to give you guys some movie recommendations for your next J-horror watch. So the first one on this list is actually a quite polarizing movie that I feel like is hard to explain. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a synopsis, and the synopsis goes as follows. A schoolgirl and 6 of her classmates travel to her aunt's country home, which turns out to be haunted, in quotes. And that movie is the 1977 horror film called House. This one is polarizing at best. This one is a little bit out there. The visuals are a little bit wacky. This is like a more like avant-garde, artsy kind of film that you will need to like you need to understand that that's the vibe going into it, or you may not like jive with this movie. Just know that it is a little bit weird and it's a little bit out there, but it's still a good horror film. And I also feel like maybe that one is, I wanted to start with that one actually because it's not necessarily underrated or anything. I just feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, or people do talk about it, but they don't really recommend it because it's not like a very like accessible movie for a lot of people. But if that is kind of up your alley, if you guys like weird, artsy, avant-garde horror films, especially ones that are Japanese, you guys will love that movie because that is right up your alley. And if you guys already do like those kind of movies, you probably have already seen that movie. I'm just letting you guys know that. But I know that whether you've seen House or not, maybe give it a rewatch and check it out. Now, this next one on this list is the movie that actually inspired the whole list. This movie is called 964 Pinocchio. Now, I will also give you a synopsis for this one, but just understand that this one also is a little bit weird, but it's not as, I feel like, out there as House, at least like visually it's not. But this movie, the concept of it is a little bit out there. The concept and some of the filmmaking techniques in this movie, which I will get into, isn't for everybody, but I just wanted to recommend this movie because it was a long time coming to watch on my watch list, and I just decided to throw it on, and Ashley and I sat through this movie. Let's just get into the synopsis. So the movie itself, Pinocchio 964 or 964 Pinocchio, is about a lobotomized cyber sex slave, and it's supposed to be like set in the future. It's very low budget. This cyber guy is abandoned by the people who kind of made him, and because he wasn't able to, you know, perform, so he kind of just like wanders the streets until he meets this girl who kind of takes him under her wing. Like I said, this movie is very low budget, so you're not getting a lot of like the crazy visuals that you do in a lot of other movies. This movie actually was created by somebody who worked on the movie Tetsuo, Iron Man, and that movie is also, spoiler alert, is going to be on this list. There was a person that worked on that movie that decided to make this movie. So you can definitely feel similar styles in the directing. It's not the same director, but they have some of the similar styles as the person that made Tetsuo. Just like very like avant-garde, weird, like weird angles and weird like dialogue. Not a lot of dialogue in this movie. There's like a lot of grunting, and it's just it's a little bit weird. The makeup's like not the greatest. Like the outfits are not the greatest because, like I said, it's very low budget. This movie actually, there's some filmmaking styles that they used in this movie, like guerrilla filmmaking, where they literally filmed in the street. Like they might have gotten a permit or not, but they filmed in the street without people knowing, kind of vibe, to get their real reactions. They filmed like in public places to get people's real reactions to what was happening while they were filming, which is cool, and more people need to do that, even though like maybe that might be illegal, who knows, but that is like, I love that kind of filmmaking. I feel like it's really cool. I love getting people's real reactions to what is going on and like how weird things are. But this movie is just, like I said, it's a little bit weird, it's a little bit crazy, but it's not talked about enough. Speaking of Tetsuo, that is the next one on this list. Tetsuo. Let's get into Tetsuo, because Tetsuo is also another very weird, out there, avant-garde movie. Like, not a lot of dialogue, if any dialogue. This movie came out in 1989. It's a sci-fi horror film about this metal fetishist. It's kind of even hard to like ascertain like a real, I guess technically, well, I was about to say that Tetsuo to me like didn't have a lot of narrative lines like going through but now that I think of it, it definitely has more like of a narrative than 964. This is the synopsis that is listed on IMDb, and it's: a businessman accidentally kills the metal fetishist, who gets revenge by slowly turning that man into a grotesque hybrid of flesh and rusty metal. Maybe 964 Pinocchio is a little bit too out there for you, or House is a little too out there for you, but you still want to step into something a little bit more artsy and avant-garde. this is the movie for you. They just put it together. It's very DIY. It feels very DIY. It looks very DIY, but that's something that I personally really resonate with. I love a DIY movie. I love watching movies where you can tell the filmmaker really cared about something and to try to make it really good. So we are now going to be moving into another horror movie called XT, Hair Extensions. I guess maybe I don't know if I said that right. This movie is, like by the name, it's a hair horror movie. So if you guys are looking for a horror movie that has to do with hair, look no further. This is the one. This is like peak hair horror to me. I feel like this movie could be a introduction into Japanese horror films, and it's definitely one that's not as avant-garde and weird. It's just a straight up like hair horror movie. So like it's literally exactly what I'm describing it. It's a hair horror movie. It's a horror movie about hair. If you like maybe are a little bit pushed away by my first couple of recommendations, this one I feel like is more accessible to the wider market of people. It's not super crazy or weird. Switching gears here, we're gonna dive into another horror movie called The Machine Girl. It actually stars Asami, which you probably have seen in other movies before, but this one is actually directed by a guy who actually did another movie that Ashley and I just watched that I didn't want to just recommend on this list because I feel like it's it's one of those movies that is just crazy. It's called Zombie Ass Toilet of the Dead. So you could take that how you will, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Yes, it's a yes. Whatever you're thinking, yes. But the guy that directed that did this movie called The Machine Girl, and this movie is a body horror movie, and I think it's also supposed to be very funny. This guy seems to be like a director that really focuses on like comedy horror or adding a lot of comedic elements, and I feel like it would be funny. It's just based on Zombie Ass, because that one was funny. This is the synopsis on IMDb. Maimed while seeking revenge, a girl becomes stronger than ever. And it looks pretty low budget, but it looks like it's gonna be some bloody good time fun. And if you guys are into that kind of stuff, where it's just bloody good time fun, funny, this is probably the movie that you want to check out. There's also another movie on this list that I feel like you guys will like as well if you haven't seen it. So check that out. I'm sure it's going to be a fun, bloody good time. The next one on this list I had alluded to because I mentioned that Sion Sono, who did that hair horror movie, he also did a movie called Suicide Club. This is a movie that I've had on my watch list. I really do want to watch this one. This one seems like it would be right up my alley personally. This seems like if I had watched this movie when it came out in 2001, I would have probably, like, if I would have stuck with me, I would have loved it. But this movie is a movie that is here's the synopsis. A detective is trying to find the cause of a string of suicides. It is described as a dark comedy, conspiracy thriller, splatter horror, teen horror, crime horror. So you can kind of guess just by the name of that movie what this movie is going to be about. Go add this to your watch list. Maybe pick it up the next time you guys want to watch a Japanese horror movie. Now, this next one on this list is definitely a comedy, definitely funny, definitely fun, and definitely bloody. It's called Tokyo Gore Police, and this is one that I feel like a lot of people may have already seen or heard of. Maybe they want to see. Tokyo Gore Police is it's crazy. It's low budget. It's DIY. It's like where they put the entire budget into like blood and gore, and this is the synopsis. The synopsis is: a vengeful policewoman battles an army of cyborg creatures that showcase horrific mutations. There's all different types of stuff in here, weird things, but it's like in the vein of like, it was made in 2008, but like it feels very like 90s, if that makes sense, especially with like the way it was shot. There's a lot of like Dutch angles. There's a lot of like the way that they colored things, and like the way the blood looks. It's just it feels very 90s to me, but it's one of those movies that I just feel like you have to watch at least once in your life, man. This next one on this list I also haven't seen yet, but it is also on my watch list, and it actually has spawned a couple of sequels. And this movie I feel like is in the vein of like a grief horror movie, or like emotional dramatic horror movie. That's the kinds of that, when I described those themes, that's what I feel like this movie has, and it is called Tommy. This is the synopsis on IMDb. A traumatized young woman is trying to recover her memories with the help of a psychiatrist. During her hypnosis sessions, she repeats the name Tommy, but is unable to recall where she knows it from. So again, I feel like this movie is one of those like mysterious, dramatic, maybe has something to do with grief or something emotional or drama themed. I feel like that is what these movies are, just based on what I've seen and how I've seen people talk about these movies and describe them. Another movie that actually has a sequel that I want to mention is called Evil Dead Trap. Evil Dead Trap is about a reporter who goes to investigate an empty warehouse after receiving a snuff film. It has nothing to do with the Evil Dead movies. Those movies, Sam Raimi. It doesn't have anything to do with those movies, but I am intrigued. This is another movie that I haven't seen yet. I wanted to put on your radar because I know it does have a sequel. One more movie I want to put on your radar is called Meatball Machine. This is another weird sci-fi horror movie that I feel like also probably has something to do with body horror. This is a movie that actually had it was like, I'm pretty sure there's like 2 versions of this or something. This movie is about a couple's love being split by alien parasites invading the earth, turning people into cyborg fighters. And you can see you can actually, just based on these synopsis alone, you can see where a lot of the themes go in these movies. You can see like, oh, there's a lot of grief horror, and there's a lot of weird dramatic elements, and there's a lot of cyborg stuff and sci-fi elements, because they're always thinking outside the box, trying to do something new and weird and different. That's what I love about this genre, especially from Japan. I feel like they do things a little bit differently than Western media, and maybe it's a little hard to get into at first, but I feel like once you dive in, you guys will love it. I understand there is a barrier to these movies. If you're not into reading subtitles, you can't understand Japanese. I get it, but I personally am under, I always operate under what Bong Joon-ho said about subtitles. You need to get over the 2-inch subtitle barrier and experience these movies, because there's so many movies at our fingertips that we haven't grasped yet, that we haven't been able to watch yet, because we are limiting ourselves. And I feel like people who operate under that, they need to go past that barrier and watch these movies, because you're missing out on so many good things. There's so many good body horror elements, there's so many good narrative elements, there's so many things that are taken from some of these movies that I mentioned on this list that they put into Western media. So I'm talking about like that. That's what I'm talking about, where these movies are special, they're cool, they have their own place in history, and I wanted to just celebrate that on my channel. I know maybe I'm not doing them the best service by just reading some of the synopsis here. Like I maybe that's not the best way to approach this, but I just wanted to give you guys some recommendations to dive in and experience some of the more underrated, less talked about Japanese horror movies. And if you guys have a movie on this list that you haven't seen yet and now you are going to want to watch because I recommended it on here, let me know down below in the comments. And also if you have any other recommendations for other people who may be wanting to experience these movies, that want to look into something more than just The Ring or The Grudge, give those recommendations down below in the comments. Please, it would be very much appreciated for me as well. I love watching new movies, so please put that on my radar. And I will see you guys on the flip side. So stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.
They call me a god.